Hi, and welcome to Two CPAs and the Mic, the podcast where we talk tax, finance, and all things related to business. Whether you're a business owner, working professional, or someone who wants to start a career in accounting, this is the podcast for you. Hosted by CCK Strategies partners Jeff Frable and Sara, we dive into relevant business and tax matters with working professionals to make these topics less intimidating, relatable, and dare we say fun? Let's get down to business.
Welcome to this week's episode of Two CPAs and the Mic. We are so glad you joined us this week. We are covering relevant business and tax topics, but we're doing it by applying straight talk and practical information without all that stuffy jargon that normally comes along with our profession as CPAs. Today is just another great episode. We're going to go deep on something that impacts every person one way or another. Therefore, it impacts every workplace one way or another. We're going to be talking about the heady subject of mental health in the workplace. This is real talk, not a therapy session. We're going to be, if you are an entrepreneur, business owner, and you are listening to us right now, you definitely want to stay with us because we're going to talk about some of the things that are going on in your workplace that you may not necessarily know about, and talk about maybe how to deal with them. If you're a professional in the business space, you definitely want to stay with us as well, because we may be talking about things that are going on in your own mind that you don't understand, but maybe we can provide some clarity. My trusty co-host, Sara Mays. What's up, Sara?
What's up? Right? You messed me up, dude. You usually say, "What's up, Mays?"
What did I say, Sara Mays?
You used my first name.
We are.
What was that?
See, I'm just trying to, kind of mix it all up.
You did mix it up. I think it's because KP's not here.
Well, let's talk about KP while she's not here. Where is she?
Well, she is over in the beautiful state of Pennsylvania.
It's a beautiful state,
and she is getting to spend some time with her girls. But most importantly, she is watching her oldest graduate from college.
Yes,
and going to be in the championship games this weekend.
Yes. Again, shout out to the Porter girls that are playing with Grove City College in Pennsylvania. They are playing in the NCAA. I think they're D3, but lacrosse tournament.
Yep.
And her oldest is graduating, so they're traveling. She's not with us today. All the love to Christy and the family. But other life updates. This is the friendly banter. Sara Mays. Grandkids, Link is home. And I am exhausted. I flew Thursday out to North Carolina and brought Aspen and Lincoln home. And then Wyatt, her husband, and his dad drove the U-Haul halfway across the United States. And they made it Saturday, and everybody's safe and sound at home, and it's great. Well, Wyatt he still has a little bit left in the we're
Army.
Trusting that he's
trusting that we
as long as he's not listening to our podcast, he's good, right?
Yes, that's right.
Well,
what's going on with Ollie?
I'm so jealous of you. So we're finally back home after 2.5 weeks out. Ollie, I'm getting these pictures. It's driving me nuts. But today, get this, we strive to be not the stereotypical CPA,
right,
whether it's presentations. So I did a presentation today at the Bixby Chamber. Shout out to the Bixby Chamber about what CCK is and what makes us different. And I put him in the slides. My claim to fame was, well, now that I'm marketing him, I can deduct him in some kind of way, shape, or matter. But so yeah, we had some really great picks,
fun.
And so we're actually trying to plan our next trip back east to see him.
Yay.
But he's doing good. He's doing great. We also had the robotics championship in St. Louis,
cool.
Sherry, my wife, her teams did fantastic. We actually had
world. You didn't say world
championships. We actually had a middle school team from Bixby Public School System that was in the grand finals. We'll call it the Dome finals with the top 10 in the world. And this program has really only been doing this for about 3 years. So they did an amazing job. But you know what? We are not here to talk about us.
No.
Our listeners want to hear the amazing and deep topics that we come up with. Right. And this week is no different. Like I said, it's a heady topic. I know it's a pun, but it's very important. It really is. It's a serious topic, and we don't want to go real deep and bum everybody out. We want to stay kind of high level. But it is a very, very serious topic. We're talking about mental health in the workplace. Couple caveats before we start here. We're not doing any diagnosis. This is like
thank goodness.
This is like when we have attorneys on. We're like, this does not constitute therapy. If you go to our guest website, it's for informational purposes only. Awareness.
Yes.
And we really, I think, Sarah, when we get down to it, you know, and I know we've shared why we do this podcast. We believe it's divinely ordained.
Yes.
And I really believe there's going to be some people that are listening to this today that are listening to it first. They're there for a specific reason.
That's right.
And that divine journey and that divine appointment. And just to start off, I'm going to keep this at a very high level because I could get so deep into this. But the reason this is important to me is I really had my own event that happened. I had been struggling for 3 or 4 years after COVID, just my, turning 50 and all that kind of stuff. What's my purpose? I actually got diagnosed with anxiety. I started taking some meds, thought I was fine. And then I slipped into depression, which I did not understand what depression was. I thought it was just being tired. I couldn't get out of bed. Or blue. Yeah. Exactly. No, it's being in bed for a week and not really caring what's going on in the world. Not suicidal or anything like that, but it's just like some triggers switched and are flipped. And through the help of meds, through the help of counselors, through the help of an amazing team that we have, I've come back from the other side. Now, obviously, it never goes away.
Right.
But it's just,
but you have coping mechanisms now,
Coping mechanisms, yes. And I admit it. I'm not afraid to share it.
I love that vulnerability.
Well,
Jeff. It's amazing.
I shared it with the whole firm.
You did.
And I actually had one person that responded to me in a way that was like, holy crap, you deal with this and you deal with it much worse than I do. And it just revealed to me that this stuff's going on. It's a silent killer. It's a silent reduction in productivity. And so let's just take it head on and deal with it today.
Let's do it.
Our guest today is Chris King, and Chris is the owner of GPS Therapies here in Tulsa. They do all kinds of counseling through their organization. He's a podcaster. His podcast is called Stuck in My Head, and I love the way they describe it. It's a show for people interested in stories, the people who live with them, and the stuff that's going on in their head. And isn't it true that we just all have all kinds of stuff going on in our heads? And I think the thing that everybody needs to hear right off the bat is everybody's got their own S in their head. I mean, everyone's got their stuff.
Yes.
And so it's nothing to be ashamed of. But Chris he rides bicycles. I wanted to say bikes, but he's not a Harley guy. He's a cycler. That's what we'll call him. We met on a panel through the Bixby Chamber. We had lunch. We just hit it off. And I said, Chris, you got to be on our podcast. So, Chris King, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, guys.
Yes, welcome.
It's great to see you guys. Great place. It's awesome.
Well, thank you. We have our own room, and we're very proud of it, and we love what we do. So, Chris, let's get started. Just kind of tell us, the way I usually introduce this is tell our listeners why they should listen to you. Who are you? Give us a brief introduction of kind of your journey. I know it went from ministry to counseling. Talk about a little bit about your offices, your practice, how big it is, and just what your specializations are.
Yeah. I've been married for 33 years, and I have 3 kids and 1 grandbaby, and I live here in the Tulsa area. Been in the helping people business probably for 30-ish years, and that's taken different shapes. I was a director and one of the people behind a place called New Life Ranch back in the 90s, and then had a nonprofit, got a counseling degree, worked at a church. I had a hard time staying at a job for more than 4 years because I'm just kind of a restless soul, and I want variety, right? So I started a counseling group after I got my license, and that group has grown. And so now GPS Therapies here in the Tulsa area, we have 5 offices and I think 38 therapists working with us
today, right?
Yeah. I mean, and some work full time, some work a little, some work half time. And then what we do, our mission is providing healing and growth through relational mental health therapy. And in my journey, moving from that ministry world, I just felt like that for me personally, I really didn't want to be exploitive and to say that like I'm going to work with Christians. Like, I just want to work with everyone. And I get that the church is great at that. But it felt good for me to do therapy and then to frame it up that way. And I had people join us. And gosh, now what we do, I'll say this, my main thing is working with anxiety and relationships, people's orientation, kind of like where they are in all relationships. I believe that all problems are relationship problems, be they people relationship or my relationship to my past or future or God or to anything. Everything is in relationship. And so we guide up GPS that way. But our group is fairly eclectic. It's a great place to work. I say to our people, we want you to have the autonomy of you create your own schedule and your thing. If we like it, it can kind of become our thing. And so we have psychologists, we do psychological testing, we have marital and family, we have people that are trauma and EMDR certified, and we have play therapists working with littles. We have Medicare that work with old. So it's fairly broad.
I loved in looking at your website, some of the things that you take care of, the LGBTQ plus community. And it says to create a safe, inclusive space for clients of all identities. That
Absolutely.
just kind of spoke to me. That's kind of what you talked about there. One of the things that caught my eye was the tailoring your services to unique challenges that come with aging. That really spoke with me. But the other one, and we kind of joked a little bit about it before we got on, was religious trauma. I mean, these are all serious things that people deal with, and it all goes back to relationships in one way or another that you're talking about.
Yeah, and when we talk about relationships, I'm like, let's think about the word literally. My relationship to you or to it or to my belief, where I stand. And so everybody that comes to see me or comes to see us, they are either lost, as in my map of how life is supposed to go has been destroyed. It could be through my own actions or through history or through something around me, a circumstance around me, through a loss or violence or my headspace. But they're lost and they need to be found. They need safe places to tether to be triaged to, where they can take the next step. If they're not lost and they come to us, they're stuck, meaning that I am in a place where I feel like paralyzed. I can't get to the my map maybe isn't clear. I don't have a direction. You know, in the first instance, I don't have maybe a you are here place. I see a world, but where do I fit? And in the other instance of being stuck, they kind of know where they are, but like, what do I do from here? And so when you talk about aging and when you talk about LGBTQ, like we have communities that are, well, I say communities, it's a super loose community because many individuals in today's world, even though we're so highly connected, there's a loneliness epidemic. People feel isolated, disconnected. People don't feel understood. And then that gets in your head and things go kind of south.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're in the business of helping people, providing healing and growth. Man, our team is awesome. And we try to lead with the heart.
So ironically enough, all these people that have issues, because like we kind of joked about, everyone's got their own stuff.
Yeah.
They have to work to make a living, to buy things, obviously. So let's start to transition this into the workplace. Do you have any kind of like statistics or anything about mental health in the workplace that like kind of roll off your tongue? And because I remember about a year ago, I heard someone speak and they said that we lose about 3 weeks a month to mental illness and productivity. And that's not just because like you're depressed, but because like you're either stuck or you got something going on that you're concerned about. But any kind of like generally known stats out there?
Well, one screams at me, which is just that half of all workers, so you talk about half of the people who are employed in the United States are, at the time of the CDC survey, are experiencing high workplace stress that impacts their life in negative ways.
Okay.
Like half of them, half of us, right?
Yeah.
So of us, 2 of us in this room right now, because we are like, man, this is impacting my life pretty negatively.
Yeah.
And so the workplace is a gathering space for this problem, actually.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Like we're coming to work and we're experiencing the stressors. We're bringing our history with us. We're bringing our home with us. We're bringing our expectations. Maybe the thing inside of us that says that we need to please and keep our boss happy. There's just a lot to it.
So is there anything that you generally see, and is it generalized to like men versus women, younger versus older, generational, or is it just like flat out across the board?
A couple of things that stand out to me and like anecdotally, but also like from a research standpoint. And I was a little surprised, but being a guy, I tend to see more guys. Like our field is dominated by women. And my particular group of like in my office, we've got...
I was going to speak to that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's like 4 of us guys in an office of 15, which is a little weird. But so I tend to see men, but statistically, women report a higher level of workplace stress than men. And then the other thing is that our younger employees are really fusing or adopting or connecting with the collective economic stress that the United States is facing.
Okay.
Like they collectively, I mean, again, huge generalization, but I have 3 kids that are in this space. How are we going to pay our mortgage if we aren't rich?
Right.
And also just job security, all these things. So like, yeah, their level of stress and their anxiety, which then can kind of bleed over into other sorts of super diagnosable things was more prevalent.
Do you see a difference? Jeff alluded to this, like between, I mean, I'm hearing you say more younger people are more maybe attuned to their mental health and say, call it anxiety or depression or whatever. Where, I mean, are you seeing a trend in older people where they're like, I can handle this, I'm strong mentally? Are you seeing where they're opening up into... Well, I may need to talk about this.
Yeah, I've been doing this for a while, and I think that with every year, like various sorts of therapeutic interventions, just like talk therapy, become more acceptable for people that are older. I'm a Gen Xer. I was born in 1968. I'm in my 50s. And I would say that obviously if I see them, they're going to give it a shot. So that's anecdotal. But I think that that's been the narrative for a long time, is that it's just a really vulnerable thing to go and ask for that help. To sit down in front of a stranger and talk about your stuff. I mean, that's just so difficult. And I would say for younger people, it feels normal because many of them expose their lives through social media. And that's just their brains have developed differently too. And so that becomes super normal. One thing, and I don't want to jump ahead too much, but I will pitch this too, is that a misnomer regarding the overall narrative of mental health, particularly among those that are like 30 or younger, is that therapy is the best idea. And that's just not true.
Okay.
Like for helping with your mental health. And statistically, it is like we can't get around it. Like talk therapy is really helpful. Also, so is jogging.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I see.
Amen.
And so there are 2 different things, right? But like it's almost like there's a dividing line around the age of 45, maybe, that says people over 45 are like, I mean, I don't know. It kind of depends on where you grew up and what your values are, if you believe in general in the effectiveness of therapy and therapeutic interventions. And so it's kind of a toss-up for people that are over 45. And if you're like younger than that, they tend to accept it. And then the younger that you are, it's like a lot of people do it, but they think it's always the right thing or always the best answer. So I don't believe that.
So you're just talking about talking through problems? Is that what the talk therapy is? Or are you talking about like actual tools that are provided? Or?
Well, so like when I say talk therapy, then I would want to like categorize that and like hone in a bit and say help from a licensed professional that it's different. So like pastoral counseling has different requirements of people that go through the state. Like we have ethics requirements, just like, with you guys.
Yeah,
like
right.
We have CEUs that we have to complete, and there's a board that can censure us or pull our license. So there's an accountability there. And I'm not saying that other people can't help. What I was saying is that we're not the only thing, and sometimes we're not always the best thing. We're one of many things.
Right. There's many tools in the belt.
Absolutely.
So I want to jump a little bit ahead here in just kind of in defining who those professionals are.
Yeah.
And the team. The ones that I wrote down are counselors versus therapists versus psychiatrists versus psychologists.
Sure.
What do these teammates and these professionals do that's a little bit slightly different from each other?
Right. So in our world, counselor and therapist are fairly interchangeable.
Okay.
A therapist sounds fancier, and I think a lot of us like to call ourselves that because you can be a counselor and have a certain level of education, but if you're a licensed counselor, an LPC,
right.
or a licensed marital and family counselor, LMFT therapist. Like those are master's degree level things. So counselors and therapists, fairly interchangeable. You could be a psychologist and a therapist, that could be interchangeable. Psychologist would be a PhD level or another doctoral level that could be doing therapy, but also many psychologists tend to do psychological testing. So the research side is much heavier, much more dense. They can bill higher amounts because they have a higher level of education for various insurance companies and things like that. And then psychiatrists, like as opposed to what might have been true 50 years ago, psychiatrists, maybe 2% of them or 5% of them engage therapeutic talk practices. Psychiatrists are in the business of prescribing medications. Yeah. And they are doctors who have been to medical school, and psychiatry is their specialty. And that's different than what we do. I'm an LPC, licensed professional counselor.
Was in my situation when my practitioner, who had originally diagnosed some medication, said to me, I'm going to refer you to a psychiatrist. I went, holy cow, I'm going crazy. Well, when I sat down and spoke with them, they're like, well, we're here to manage the meds.
That's what they do.
You're going to a counselor, right? And I said, yeah, I'm going to a counselor. And so that was kind of an eye opener for me because I was born in 69. So we're from that same era. And I only knew what I saw on TV.
Right.
And so I appreciate you explaining that. And the other thing I want to go back to, Sara, is your comments about the generational, I'll just work through it. Obviously, I'm not a professional. I'm just going from experience. That was me. Mm-hmm. I'm just not working hard enough through this. I'm not praying enough. I don't have enough faith. That's what's going to get me through it. And I remember the day that a counselor said to me, you're being tormented. And I was like, okay, I'm not crazy. I just need some help. Right. And so, again, everyone's got their own situation. They need to work through this. So, Chris, let's go into the workplace again. And in our world, we deal with strenuous situations, stressful seasons. So we generally call them busy season, tax season, things of that nature. And I'd kind of like to talk through a little bit the process that one can go through and maybe even experience from I'm just stressed to, I have anxiety, or I'm bummed, I'm tired, to, now I'm depressed. I'm having a bad week or bad couple weeks versus burnout. Mm-hmm. How does all that kind of just progress generally with professionals that you see?
Well, I think in the workplace, there are environments that are conducive to mental health and those that aren't. There are also people that bring in their own mental health funk and health and that continuum to the workspace. But I would say what we see with people is that they tend to give clues over time about their stress. There are certain tells. It's kind of like in my world where I'm doing a lot of like relational work, it's just like resentment. Resentment tends to really grow because I don't have a space where I feel free to kind of say what's up. I don't have this space to give bad news. I feel boxed in. I feel like I can't move. And if I speak up, the longer that I wait, the harder that it gets to do that. So I'll go years without ever speaking my truth. And then things can get catastrophic. And so when there are work environments where people don't feel heard, and we need to talk about the relationship between freedom and responsibility, right? Mm-hmm. Like that's real. And so it's really not my place to come on and say, because I'm an owner, so I get it. Like owners and managers, like we have to create these spaces in our workplace where people just have so ridiculously much freedom, and things don't necessarily always get done that way. It's hard. But when people don't feel heard or understood, they are either going to act out or act in.
Okay.
They're going to act out or they're going to act in. And they're typically going to do more of the same stuff they've always grown up doing that didn't work. So if you have people that start being a little more passive aggressive or sarcastic, or they don't show, or they are, and so some people will act in, they'll isolate. Some people will act out. They might say things that maybe aren't necessarily helpful. You'll start noticing their follow through probably slipping, things like that. And so, that difference between bad day and things are really going south is really the ability to be conscious and Are you operating out of your motor, that brain, that mind that just goes, and it's always spun up and you're cycling? Or are you able to have the space to get conscious and instead of being in it, look at it? And leaders that cultivate spaces to look at it, create honest environments to where people feel healthy. And then you start seeing like the reasons for people staying on the job. It's not money. Money's a huge one, but when they feel trust and they feel heard and they feel a sense of purpose, like they feel a family. They're a part of a family.
So I don't want to, boy.
Right.
I don't want to lose your train of thought, but okay, we are two owners.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how do you do that in reality? I mean,
right. What does that look like?
What does that look like in a good firm, a good office versus
Your listeners are going to have to take the guy that owns the therapy practice with a grain of salt.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm the guy, if we were on video, I'm the guy that showed up with a hoodie and a ball cap today and it's Wednesday.
Yeah.
Right?
You're straight out of, what's the show? I just went completely... What's
Shrinking?
Shrinking.
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
Sure. Right.
Yes.
So take this with a grain of salt, but the principles are the same. There's the principles of orientation. Do I feel like I can, to a certain degree, be myself? Do I feel heard? Are there spaces in our structure, in our flow, that create room for people? And also, some of us, like people like me, tend to go too far with that. Then the office becomes like the show.
Mm-hmm.
The Office.
Yeah.
Yeah. Steve
Yeah.
Carell's whole goal is just so that they'll all just love
Everybody's
him.
happy. Yeah.
They'll just love him and we're all happy and we want to just like stay married. So but I would say that this relationship, again, it's all about relationships between freedom and responsibility needs to be examined regularly by owners and managers. How do our people experience autonomy? They have choice. I'll tell you something. People that feel a sense of autonomy in their life have their own personal power. They tend to be mentally healthy. They believe and realize that they have choices and they can do things. They are not helpless. When you have the opposite of that, and workplaces really have a way of getting that done whenever production is key. And so the responsibility side of that is that you guys, I think if we have really clear missions and if people can see our hearts and people can see what we're about and there's transparency there from leadership, then you have a much greater chance of buy-in when it comes time for the responsibility side. Accountability and responsibility comes from that trust. If they don't trust you, it's just not going to matter. And agreement and trust are not the same thing. Basing your company's values on agreement is that's a dictatorship. And dictatorships tend to work for the dictator.
Yeah.
Very, very well.
Work for the dictator.
Yeah, they work really, really well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But when there's autonomy and responsibility, so I've given you this freedom and there's some limits on it. There's some boundaries and we have a good P&P and all this stuff to what we'll accept and what we won't accept. And then whenever we have trouble, we're able to talk about it because we've really given our best to be trustworthy. And whenever someone can't be trustworthy, then we change the deal.
I think it's funny because we're all different people and we've done episodes where we talk about strength finders and doesn't define who you are, but it explains how you can be. And when we get in some of our partner conversations, partner meetings, and we talk about doing different things for our teammates, I tend to be a very trusting person. Yeah. Some would say gullible.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, why don't they just trust that we want what's best and we're doing our best? And not everybody's that way, and that's okay.
Yes.
It is okay. And it's hard whenever you're a leader that's an emotional leader. I'm that way. I think you might be that way. I don't know you that well yet, but we tend to expect reciprocity in that sort of way. But that's back to orientation, us understanding where we stand in relationship to our team, to our family. That's really, really huge. If we don't pay attention and we're naive, or we just talk too much. That's my thing. I talk a lot. And I don't listen very well, which makes me the third best counselor in the room. I'm just in our building for sure. If we do those things, then we can miss our people. And then if they don't trust us, then accountability, those things kind of tend to fall apart. So entering in from that principle of saying even our mission is to provide healing and growth through relational mental health therapy. Our mission as leaders towards our team is to provide a space of healing and growth. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing. Believing if we invest in them that way, we do a couple of retreats every year, We do voluntary staffings. Like every Tuesday, a group of us get together and we just talk about what's going on and how to make each other better. It's not just Christmas parties. And so those things, and also where we're talking about real stuff. But the flip side is also true. Again, not to bring up Steve Carell too much, but it's just like, if your people, if they're like, I have a job, I show up, I do the thing, and I've met the criteria, we have to accept that.
Right. Clock in and clock out.
I mean, if they're doing a great job, yeah. So, but it's about room. It's about hospitality is creating space.
Well, the other part about that is with our teammates feeling valued, not everybody wants to be partner. Not everybody wants to do X. And that's okay. Just be the best darn X or Y that you can possibly be. Because the truth of the matter is we would not have that job, that role, that responsibility here if we didn't need it. I think our profession as a whole, especially in public accounting, is guilty of up or out, meaning you're up to partner or you're out.
Oh, right.
There's no space. And one of the things we've tried since the very beginning is there's many different paths. There's many different ways to do what you want to do here. And it's just doing it the right way and trying to get that communicated as best as possible to our teammates. So I understand what you're saying about individuals finding their space to really thrive.
Yeah, and I think as leaders, that vulnerability thing is a big deal because people have room to move around. Like if we have a monoculture where people don't see us as human beings, like leaders mess up, and I mean maybe not necessarily catastrophically, but just us being real creates an atmosphere and a community, frankly, where people want to work.
Right.
And you'll be turning people away because everybody talks.
And I think, not to toot our own horn, Sarah, but I think one of the things that makes us special as a firm is when you talk about leaders in our firm, whether it's partners, managing directors, division leaders, we run the spectrum from strategic to emotional. Emotional.
Super diverse.
Leaning.
Yeah.
And so we could have teammates that are by the book, do their job, and they may connect a little bit more with the strategic leaders. They may think Jeff talks a whole lot more than he should, and he gets really too weepy more than he should, and all that kind of stuff. But then we also have the teammates that emotion can connect with, and they can feel heard. And so just hearing you say that, I think just really kind of reflects who we are and try to be and why that's important.
It's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge.
So when individuals have these issues or situations, is it fair to say that really what they're exhibiting is kind of the tip of the iceberg, that there's really stuff that's really underneath there that goes deeper than what you're really just seeing?
That's always true, right? I mean, that's true of every day, every moment. And the question is, how stuck in our head are we? And how stuck in our head are our people? Because we have tens of thousands of thoughts every day. Most of them aren't remembered. And then of the ones that are remembered, most of them aren't valid or true. But we tend to get the ones that are sticky, maybe about our performance or about what's not working or about the stressors at home and now how we don't have time, or economics, or even like more existential things, spiritual things, bigger things like through our lives. And so we've got to have people in just kind of looking out for each other and creating that kind of space. It can be maddening when I've got a supervisor who is super interested in my mental health. So there's that. How you doing, man? You good? You good? No, are you good? That can be maddening. Some people don't want that. But the space and the interaction that creates room, like relational room, to really tell the truth about mental health stuff. And also I think programs are helpful. I think a lot of times they kind of lack meaning, like general trainings that we have to do every year. But I don't know, if you get the right people in the house, can create connection. People get help that way a lot. If we have relationships with different companies where if we get in a room full of people and just can connect, they might see that it's a valid thing to go get some help whenever they're depressed or having a problem with their marriage or an addiction issue.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's a whole other world, is the addiction issue. Because again, I'm not a counselor or a therapist, but just from experience, it can be substance, it could be you spend too much time in the garage working, doing woodwork or whatever that takes you away. And it could be running.
Yeah, right.
Running could be your idol. And I guess I go back to everything is good in moderation. It's when you start to see those things taking over what kind of thought process in your head where you're going, I really kind of have an addiction problem. Where does that kind of start to tip, Chris?
Oh, I mean, my gosh. Generally, addictions get there. Now, there's biological, like familial bloodline kind of addictions, but what we're really learning also, though, is that many times our preponderance, our risk of addiction as we grow up, many times has to do with like the place that we were raised and the maybe a lack of consistency in relational interaction as we're growing up, and abuse and neglect can lead to that. But all addiction is usually, I say all it is usually, usually it's a cope that hasn't been, I guess, diversified. Everybody behaves like we think of addictions. You mentioned some addictions that seem like some pretty healthy ones. Like there's a guy named William Glasser, a 60s psychologist. He wrote a book called Positive Addiction, and I can save you guys the hassle. It's out of print. It's super short. And this is basically what it says. Start running. Mm-hmm. Whatever it was you were addicted to that was terrible, like start running instead. Like that's the book. So, but what it is it's a cope that tends to bring you back to some sort of like homeostatic space, some sort of like window of tolerance for your stress or anxiety or fear. And so we do certain things. I stress eat. I know people that use drugs. There are people that lean into pornography. Some addictions, I worked with a person yesterday that had a gambling addiction. And so, but some addictions will take over your body, and will take over your body how it takes over your brain and creates pathways in your brain. It's kind of like the difference in riding your bike over the grass one time, and you're like, oh, there's a little track. And then riding it every day the whole summer. You're like, oh, it's super well worn. This is what we do. And so those addictions that take over the body, they require treatment because the body can't undo it on its own. It just can't. That's a real workplace thing. That's why addiction recovery and that whole genre of work, we have a couple of people in our group that do that as well. It's a different thing. Like, you're doing interventions and you're being a tough guy, because it's when it gets in your body, like people got to get healthy where they can even be reasonable. So it's a different genre. There's a whole different license for that.
Right.
Yeah.
So if we have someone that's listening and they kind of are somewhat self-aware and are understanding there could be some things going on, whether they're a business owner or, I mean, I guess with the business owners, the issue is this stuff is going on inside your four walls. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to turn a blind eye and just not pay any attention to it? Or are you going to implement things that help your teammates to be productive? And so there's that part of it. But if I kind of see us gravitating a little bit to the teammate side of it and going, if you have someone that's like, I just want work-life balance. I mean, we did a whole show on work-life harmony. What's your take on work-life balance? And if someone's not experiencing that and it's causing these issues, what are one or two things they could start to implement that might help them? I mean, we talked about exercise, but besides thinking about maybe getting some professional help, are there other things that they could do?
Well, I think, and I need to be careful how I use this phrase, but the gateway drug to change many times is physical in nature, meaning that I can't control my thoughts very well. I can tend to pile on maybe positive thoughts on top of other thoughts, but my thoughts tend to hang, and I can't control my emotions very well. When I feel a thing, I feel what I feel. But behaviorally, I can decide to do things maybe that I don't really want to on a regular basis. I mean, every time you run, you have a little bit of that. And so when people are having trouble with work-life balance, well, I mean, here's the thing too. If I, as a person, don't recognize that that's impacting my life negatively and I'm blind to it, none of it really matters. If I don't become aware of that, and I think that from an accountability standpoint, curiosity is maybe a really great word when it comes to that. How is it going with work-life balance? Have you developed trust with your team that are willing to answer that question in some sort of way that's frank? I mean, yeah. And also the balance between, again, the freedom and responsibility means that, part of your contract is you're putting in 50.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But so how do we work that out? Maybe you need a professional to kind of help you. Like it's so out of whack and it's causing you great pain and you're coping in ways that are harmful. It could cause your life to fall apart. But maybe we could have a curious conversation about that here at work. We could set the stage for you to talk about what might be more helpful. I think that movement changes the brain, it changes the body. I think that sunlight and green spaces change the brain, they change the body. I think that the questions in relationships of what do you want and what are you willing to do create more intimacy. Like there are being where the people are. If you're an isolator, like a little bit of that is a good thing. But I think that behavior has great control factor. And so whenever, back to just some of that old school stuff, if you've got somebody mentoring someone, you come to some sort of collaborative agreement, 3 times a week, I'm going to do X. It really works. Tons of people don't do the thing. But also, I'll say this, a quick story. When I was in grad school, one of the big things that had gone down during time when I was in grad school is my mom had passed. So I had a big, long grieving period during that time, right? And we had an assessment class. This is about the power of behavior. And my ADHD will kick in, so I'll tell a story and I'll forget.
What was I talking about?
Right, exactly, right? So I had to say that. Anyway, so I have this assessment teacher, and I know that he's a psychologist, and he had a group that had med prescriptions, things like that. And I'd never engaged in any kind of psychological meds, and really had never been to therapy. I was just in grad school. And so, but I had been grieving, right? My whole orientation had been shot. And I didn't know where I was or what I was going to do. And it impacted my body and my spirit and everything. And so I go to him, and this had been about a year maybe. It wasn't 6 months. And I said, I think that I might need an antidepressant. And he's like, well, we'd be very willing, at my practice, be very willing to assess you for that. And he says, would you be willing to do some exercise for 3 weeks? Are you in danger? No, I'm not in danger. Okay. Would you be willing to do some exercise for 3 weeks? And then come back to me. I'm like, yeah. And so, but this is what he said. And so my point is that he said, and I thought it was a little over the top. He's like, I want you to give me, can we agree for you to do, for the next 3 weeks, 6 days of 60 minutes of aerobic exercise a week for the next 3 weeks, 6 days of 60 minutes. And me being 28, I'm like,
yeah,
sure.
That sounds
whatever.
Like a lot to me.
It sounds like a lot of work. Well, what I did was 3 days a week for 3 weeks of probably 45 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And it mattered.
Yeah.
Now, I am not here, again, sort of like your disclaimer. We're not offering advice, therapy, et cetera, et cetera. Every situation is different. But my point in the whole story is about the power of behavior. I can choose to do a thing. And my thoughts, my emotions, even my physiology are connected to behavior. Is it always the thing? When people are like, the translation in 1 Thessalonians about take those thoughts captive or something like that. Control your thoughts. I appreciate that. We don't do that where we are. We're I think a lot of things that aren't true, and sometimes it just pops. I can't do. But one thing I can do is I can slow my breathing down. I can take this walk. I can enter into a journaling exercise. I can do these things on my own. I can also have a meeting with someone every week that I know is a life-giving situation to me, and I show up to it. These are behaviors. Journaling is a behavior. Breathing, prayer is a behavior. It's a thing you do. And so that's a gateway in. And so when people are struggling with work-life balance or burnout, curiosity rather than prescription, you guys, we need to do better with work-life balance. Hey, those of you that are burnt out, remember, blah, blah, blah. That's fine. But how are you doing? Here's some things I'm curious about. That's a whole different thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it puts the ball in the court of the person that might be struggling. And they can have their say or not with you. Maybe they don't trust you or like you. Maybe they need to say to somebody else, but you've done your part. And so I think that curiosity frames that up, and that behavior can become the engine of movement in some of these things.
Yeah, you brought up something there that it just kind of makes me smile, because we could be, you need some time off, or take your PTO, or that one way or another. But then there's the stress of coming back. And how does one feel thank you for telling me to take PTO, but now you're telling me that blah, 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 blah. I mean, that's very
1 week to catch up on 2 weeks of work.
that's very real. And that goes back to how do we as leaders solve that kind of thing? So
it's really hard. There's not time to negotiate everything. And if everything you do is a negotiation, like your structure can fall apart and your business could close. Like that's really true. However, every relationship is a negotiation. All of them. And so if you're my boss and you give me a directive, I always have the opportunity, even if it's against the rules, to say, could I ask you a question about that? I like that, but I don't like that. Could we work through that? And so the room for that possibility in your workspace, that like goes way down down the tracks to being able to keep your space healthy mentally and emotionally.
How, when you ask the question, I mean, like if I asked Jeff, like, can we talk about, you asked me to do something and I really don't like those options and we talk about it. But at the end of the day, I still have to do it.
No, you don't.
Okay, let me back up. I still have the choice to do it if I want to stay employed.
That is true.
So how do you have that conversation with somebody?
That's how you do it. You talk about freedom and responsibility. I mean, like we are free. We are never helpless. We are totally 100% free. But I got fired working at a convenience store when I was going into college. Here's why. Because I have raging ADHD and I was probably emotionally immature at the time. But here's the thing. Now at 57 and I own a company and I've helped some people, like it's worked out pretty well. It's going pretty well. I still don't think I could make it at QT. Mm-hmm. And so they would say to me, I mean, I guess if I really had to, maybe I would, but like, I just can't keep track of things, man. It's not good. I don't manage my place. They're like, oh, you must be so busy doing administration. I'm like, nah, no, I do not. Like, we can't afford that. Like, I will blow it. Mm-hmm. I had to know that about myself, right? But my point is like, they would say to me, if you don't want to, they could say, there's the door. But they could also say, God bless you. We thought this was working out. It's not working out. But you're always free. And that might feel like semantics to some people. But to me, it's an ultimate reality. Like I've got power. I don't have to work at QT. It's best for me not to work at QT. I do much better working where I work. But I might not know that at the time. And so if we offer those boundaries in that framework of freedom and responsibility, and we please, I don't want to hear, again, grain of salt. I don't run an accounting firm. And that would be, that just never, ever could happen. So, but you guys do run one that's a little different. It's just as true. You're not just tooting your own horn. Like that's a thing. You have a reputation. And so creating that space where let's talk about it, like that is an expression of negotiation. I am willing to do X. I am not willing to do Y. Like that's how people build trust. And if it's all about agreement, listen, agreement is an awesome way to get things done and we have to have it. You guys must have X turned in by this amount of time so you will get your paycheck. There's consequences for agreement. It gets things done. But we've all worked for people and had relationships with people that we had to agree with that we did not trust.
Mm-hmm. Right.
If you can have both and more on the trust side, even a little less on the agreement side, which I don't know in your world, like your world's very cut and dried. So I don't know how that works. But that ability to say like, hey, again, curiosity. That's not me saying how it's going to be. I'm not being super rigid there. I'm just, help me understand what's up. And if they don't like it, you literally have the right to say, I wish that was different. Also, I have this responsibility, like as your supervisor, this is what I got to see done. Can we pull that off and have the rubber meets the road conversation? I mean, my gosh, it's orienting. It's defining. It's a define the relationship talk. And that, even when it's bad news, I say it's a grain of salt because like, it is bad for your mental health when you lose your job, okay? I'm not advocating for people just to be cavalier about those things, okay? But what I am saying is that defining relationships, even at the workplace, creates a healthy space where I don't carry resentment. I know where I stand.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
And that ground is solid.
And so that all goes back to being honest with people about
100.
Their performance, timely input and comments. And that's, you go to talking about the way people are. That's not easy for me. Because I'm kind of more Steve Carell than I am anybody else.
Yeah, I'm that way
but
too.
We have leaders that can do that and do it well, but do it lovingly, like you're saying. So, Sara, would you just wrap all this up and like what?
In in one word? I mean, I heard curiosity. That's what I heard.
Yeah. I can't wait to go back and listen to this and try to really process through these comments, Chris, because they're just all so rich. And we need to be aware of them as leaders in our workplaces. So let's just wrap up kind of with this one question, high level. So what's the one habit you wish every professional had or would implement?
Just any professional?
Yeah, any professional.
Take a moment at the beginning of the day and determine purpose.
Okay.
I mean, that was good.
Okay.
Well, because
that really was.
I guess what you're saying is if you do that, then everything filters through that lens.
It does. And we show up and we get the coffee and we check the emails and we're off to the races. But the wrong part of the brain's operating at the beginning of the day. Like, you need to be creative, man. You got to be like, okay, look, I have a canvas to work from.
Yeah.
I have choice. What am I going to do? Lord, help me understand. Like, get quiet.
It takes me back to Matt Granados where he says, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face. That was the Mike Tyson comment. But
yeah,
Chris, thank you so very much. If someone is listening and they wanted to get in touch with you or GPS, how would they do that?
Yeah, we're helping people. GPS Therapies, plural, GPS Therapies.com is where you can get a hold of us. There's a little intake space where you can just hop online and get in the queue to get matched with a therapist like right away. It does. Sometimes it's not immediate, unless people are in crisis. But the reason for that is we want to find just the right person for you because it's based on relationship. Right. So we got to find the person, not only that takes the right insurance, but the person that is that's their sweet spot working with you. And we do our best to make that happen. We have our podcast every week, Stuck in My Head. I'm doing a book on some of this stuff I was talking about called The Orientation Cycle. And hopefully we can talk more about that later this year. But GPS has been great. We love what we do over there.
Yeah. All right. We're going to wrap up with our
news.
It's kind of new, but it is Would you rather? So
nice.
All right, Chris.
We're trying to make this fun.
Okay.
Counseling session.
Yes.
All right, let's go. Therapy edition.
All right. Would you rather your coworkers overshare everything or communicate only through vague Slack messages, Teams messages, and emojis?
Well, let's overshare. Sure.
Okay. Would you rather have unlimited vacation time, but you feel guilty taking it, or strictly enforced vacation days you're required to use?
I don't do strict and enforced, so it'd be the first one.
Okay. All right. Would you rather have a, quote, no bad days, positivity only workplace, or where everyone is very honest about how they feel?
Yeah, that first, I didn't need the second choice.
Yeah. I mean, anything other than that first one.
But I was going to say this, I didn't say it, but gratitude's a thing you can choose. Gratitude's like an emotion, you can, it's on call. Mm-hmm. And so we don't have to all we got to do is just ask people, what are you thankful for? And then all of a sudden you have it.
Yeah, it's not pink fluffy unicorns all the time, right?
Yeah.
All right. Would you rather attend a team building retreat focusing on trust falls or have a focused silent meditation for 8 hours?
At this time in my life, the second.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. I know I want some quiet, right?
Yeah.
All right. And then last, would you rather end every workday with reflective journaling or have a group vent session with snacks?
I would probably start with the first one and then end with the second one.
So a combo.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. What'd you guys write about? I'm not telling you, but pass me that drink, please.
Right.
Yeah.
And you mentioned, not to get back off on another tangent, but you mentioned journaling earlier, and I assume that's something that's highly recommended.
Oh, it's a huge thing. Even if it's not guided. What if your only rule is 20 minutes? I will write for 20 minutes. It just uses the right part of your brain. Your frontal lobe gets activated and you're being creative. And you have options when you're creative. You're not fighting and flighting and freezing through your world. So journaling is a big, big deal.
Yeah. Well, if anyone listening to this is like me, they're going to go back and listen to this. They're going to slow it down, try and digest it, take it in. Chris, you gave us so many great things to think about, not only as leaders in the business world, but also as professionals in the business world. And I'm just going to go back to what I said at the very beginning. I feel like the reason that we've been called to do this podcast is to reach people in a different way than you would normally find in our profession. So I really believe that there's someone that maybe just came upon our podcast for the first time and they're hearing this and they see that that's them. And I would say, if that's the case, then reach out. Don't reach in, reach out to somebody. Thank you so much for being with us. And we enjoyed having you today.
A lot of fun, guys. What you guys are doing is great. So keep doing it, man.
Oh, we'll leave it on that.
Yep.
Man, Maze, that was a lot of stuff.
That was a lot of great stuff.
Well, I said it several times, but I really want to go back. I mean, as a leader in this firm, to go back and really pull out some of that stuff and try to figure out what we're doing well and maybe what we're not
where
doing
we can improve,
so well. So tell me, just out of curiosity, what were a couple of points you took away there?
Probably the first was the autonomy part where we were talking about you have your responsibility versus your freedom. Yes. And especially when I asked that question and we were talking through, like, what if you have two options and you don't like either one? You have to do one, or you have to pick one of them. And Chris said, no, you don't. And I mean, and really at the end of the day, no, you don't. But I think I have in the back of my mind, oh, I've got to work. I need to have a paycheck. And that's not everybody's motivation.
It's not. No, and especially those that are younger than us.
Yeah.
I'm seeing that more and more as our kids.
Yes.
Your kids as well as mine are growing up and they just think a different way than our generation. It's not any worse or any better. It just is what it is. What about the power of behavior?
Oh, yes. The power.
Just do something. Do something different, right?
Yeah. Do something, especially when he said, you've got to get out there and get in the sunshine and get in the grass, get in the green. I think he said green. It's good.
Well, it was really funny. After I had my episode, the very first counseling session I had, she said, you have one piece of homework before we meet again, and it's to go out and feel the ground underneath your feet when you go and you walk. So I went out and I took my shoes off and I walked around the neighborhood on the concrete just to feel the ground.
Was that just to? I mean, not to be grounded, like to be
more grounded,
this is me,
and just feel like there's more around
me on this earth
than just what I'm feeling.
Yeah,
absolutely. What else? Anything else?
Well, one word that stuck out to me was curiosity, and just to give our listeners some insight, we're as a firm and as a partner group, we're really trying to focus on who we are and where we want to go in our next horizons.
Horizons.
And one of the words that has come up is curiosity. And so from that standpoint, we want to be curious with our clients, curious with our teammates. But I mean, and for him to say that word just was like, oh, yeah, just another Holy Spirit word for us.
We need to go back and listen to it again and really suck it in and understand what it was. One of the comments that blew me away was every relationship is a negotiation. And I was like, yeah, it is. I mean, in my world, I want everybody in my world. But for many people, it's like, you don't need to be here. You don't have,
I'm good without you, dude. No, that is so true. And I mean, communication is not like a forefront. I struggle with trying to find the words that I want to use and to describe how I'm feeling. And him saying that relationship is negotiation. And I'm like, yeah.
Yep.
It's true.
Absolutely. I think we just keep going back to everybody's got their own, not their niche, but everyone's got their own way of being. I mean, it's how we act, it's how we be, it's how we respond. And nothing's ever completely right or completely wrong. It's just how we have to function together as human beings. Yeah. And I just keep going back time and time again in conversations. We got two commands, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. And that love your neighbor as yourself, it blew me away when he brought out the stress that comes with kind of the younger generations in the current economic situation, the way things are, not only economically, politically, all that kind of stuff. When I talk to my kids, I mean, it's forefront of their conversations.
Yes,
I'm like, I'll just stick my head in the sand, but it's different.
It is.
And so it's just amazing how it all affects us differently. And we just need to love and be, we're going to have church here in a minute if we don't be careful. So the last thing that I'll throw out there is the point about gratitude.
Oh, yes. That it is how did he say it? It's a
choice.
A decision. Yes.
Yeah. And so we've heard time and time again, ask your teammates what they're thankful for. Get them talking about that. So,
and it gets you in a good headspace.
Really,
and also, the last point for me was take a moment at the beginning of the day to determine your purpose.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And I know I struggled a whole lot with what is my purpose? I've got to do what God,
yes.
And yes, but no.
It can be simple as today, my purpose is to get out of bed. It can be as simple as that.
Yeah, it can be. And that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay.
That is okay.
Well, good stuff today.
Yes.
If you have any comments, questions, whatever you want to share, we're still pushing for the emails. Sara, podcast at cckcpa.com. Please.
Even just to say hi. Just put hi in the subject line and send.
Just so we know you're out there. That's podcast at cckcpa.com. Like, comment, share with us. Share with us with at least one friend. We'd love to have some more listeners to share the different things that we're talking about and the encouragement and the knowledge and all that kind of stuff. We just want to share and be a resource. Special thanks, as always, to CCK Strategies for giving us this platform to do something a little bit different. We're very appreciative of it. KP, even though you're not here, you're in our hearts. Thank you so much for all you do. To Robert Mays, the intro and outro, and the amazing, if you don't know, that's Sara on the intro part where she says, what were we joking about this week?
Dare we say fun?
Dare we say fun? So,
yes.
Emily Johansson and Dasha Janko Ferguson, thank you so much for and Clarence Fisher, Tulsa Internet Marketing Services. Thank you. You guys are rock stars. We appreciate all you do. So we hope you join us next time when these two CPAs get together to have a chat and you get to find out who's on the mic.
The information provided on this podcast is for general informational and educational purposes only and does not constitute accounting, tax, legal, or financial advice. While we strive to provide accurate and up-to-date information, laws and regulations change and individual circumstances vary. Always consult with a qualified CPA or professional advisor before making any financial or business decisions. The views expressed by the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of any organizations they are affiliated with. Listening to this podcast does not create a client-accountant relationship. By listening to this podcast, you acknowledge and agree to those terms.
And that's a wrap for this episode of Two CPAs and the Mic. If you found today's episode helpful, please subscribe, share, and leave us a review. Have questions or ideas for a topic? Reach out. We'd love to hear from you. Email us at podcast@cckcpa.com.